well, John Wesley is called the founder of the Methodist movement. He was really an Anglican until he died, and wanted to remain so. It was his followers who formed the Methodist movement. He was not so much interested in denominationalism as he was in basic Christianity. And he did his work outside of the organised church. He formed 10,000 small groups. And he wasn't an ordinary evangelist like, say, Billy Graham, who preached for conviction, for conversion. He preached to gain their interest, get them into these 10,000 small groups of about a dozen each, and then teach them what it meant to be a committed Christian. Not to the church so much, but to Jesus Christ himself.
And that meant some ethical outworking rather than just some talk.
It changed the whole atmosphere of the country, because he said, now go back into the hospitals, into the prisons, into the schools, and into Parliament, and take the practical outworking of this gospel into life. And so he really, Wilberforce came just after Wesley, but he was tremendously influenced by that movement, and he had two objectives. One was to abolish slavery, but he also had the objective to restore manners to the British people.
So what were things like at that stage? When we talk about manners, what do you mean? Well,
there was corruption in every area, including the church, the courts, the royalties, in business. It was very bad. There was the highwaymen at that stage. Promiscuity in the upper classes was expected and accepted as part of the thing. And
so this is at the same time when you've got British parliamentarians running businesses based on the back of slave trade. Their wealth was very much based on the existence of that trade.
Exactly, yes, exactly it was.
So Wilberforce had a conversion experience, didn't he?
And the ex-slave trader, Newman, of course, had a big influence on Wilberforce in this regard.
Because he'd been involved in the slave trade and
been converted and wrote Amazing Grace, and so he encouraged Wilberforce to stay where he was in Parliament and within this society, the same society, and influence, and he had tremendous effect. And we are still living, really, in that era. Now, the Enlightenment had also been a humanitarian thing to change people's attitude.
So Enlightenment, can you enlighten me? The Enlightenment, when we talk about that, what is that?
Okay.
How do you see that?
Well, the Lutheran Reformation changed the church, but it didn't really change much else. It changed the attitude towards people, how we are saved by grace through faith. But the thinkers of that time said, if the church has been wrong in this, what else has been wrong? And they began to say, well, perhaps we better start from scratch.
So their criticism, I mean, the Enlightenment really brought a shift from a legalistic approach where you did penance, you paid tithes to the church, there was this whole punishing or proselytization that was quite cruel, wasn't it? It was a horrific time for people being forced to come into the Catholic faith, essentially.
That's right, yeah. And it said, perhaps if the church is wrong, is there a God? Could we start again and ask for the reason and the purpose of life without God? And along comes Darwin just at that time and says, this is how things happen. Although Darwin was a believer, he put forward this theory that perhaps things didn't start by creation in 7 days, as the Genesis appeared to say. And the Enlightenment philosophers, Sarte, Nietzsche, and all these boys, grabbed hold of this. And the academics then said, well, let's form a whole new ethic, a whole new philosophy of life based on the fact that there is no God. And it needs to be said in their favour that they were looking to improve the lot of mankind. And so a lot of their thinking was helpful. But the guts, the essence, the centre of the transformation that took place in the British Empire really came from the renewal of the gospel of Jesus Christ through the Wesleyan thing.
So this was happening concurrently to this movement that was trying to put God out of the picture.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So this is a difficult battle that Wilberforce is fighting here.
Oh yes, it was a difficult battle because the academics were trying to destroy Christianity. So they've been trying to do that for 200 years. But along comes this renewal and produces a vitality which is stronger than the vitality of the Enlightenment. So that was, as far as New Zealand was concerned, it was formed in 1840 in the middle of this battle which is going on. A strong evangelical belief in God and the transformation through spiritual renewal through God. On the other side, a whole lot of academics that want to say it's rubbish. Along comes Darwin, and they say, here's the answer. So there was that huge battle going on. It's been going on ever since. But there's a book come out recently called The Twilight of Atheism. And it would appear that atheism is having a very difficult time these days. They're struggling like mad. They're fighting, particularly in America and in New Zealand. But they have discovered that the principles of the Enlightenment and Darwin have not produced utopia as they had hoped it would. And the disillusionment has come about mainly through the 2 world wars. Fascism, communism, and socialism were all based on godless atheism, alternative bases, particularly that man is just an animal. Survival of the fittest is part of evolution. Mutation, and all that kind of thing.
So the value for human life is lowered significantly under that premise.
Exactly. Survival of the fittest means that if my nations, Germans for instance, are the best, the highest nation in the world, it's over to me to make certain that we take over the world. Logical. And so they, since the 2 world wars, which were engineered by educated people based on atheism, the new generation is saying that it is not just body and soul, but there is a supernatural element. And so in the hippie generation, you know well of, people started to turn to love, to the occult, and to all the supernatural. Any supernatural that can happen today, people only have to set themselves up as healers or something or other, and people flock to them because it's supernatural. Supernatural
So this is a move back to a belief in a spiritual
Something
world. We are involved in a spiritual kind of environment, and
yes, that's right.
now everybody's saying, give us back something,
That's right.
because you've taken it all away.
Exactly.
This is an empty kind of a world if we're not worth anything, and
That's right.
then that hunger's starting to reappear again.
That's